be the phone. Those are the good old days. I mean,
That's
damn.
exact. That's why I have an iPhone, and it's not because I
Yeah.
wanted to be Mac or Apple or I wanted to be Android. It's because they said for $100 I could get an iPhone 4, and I was like, hell yeah!
That's
So, and that's
exactly what I
now
did.
I'm stuck in their ecosystem.
Yeah. Yep.
All
Yeah,
right, you're
now I want
making
to get a new phone.
big person money now. You can switch.
It's the principle of the thing. Like I don't like what I don't want to
I
spend
understand you.
$1,200 for a phone when 10 years ago I only had to spend $100 for a phone. And again, I get irrationally angry over this stupid stuff and
Right, but you paid $100 for a phone, right, on a very expensive plan. Remember that.
I mean at the
The
time
prices
it was
were
35
built into your monthly payment.
at the
You
time
just never felt them.
No, I didn't have unlimited data at the time. I went with the cheapest plan possible, and now it's
You
like the
can still do it
opposite.
with a different phone.
And now it's the opposite. The phone is more expensive than the plan now. But at the
Yeah.
time, it's a hot mess. It's dumb.
So
I almost switched to Android because I was trying to get my phone and they kept I don't know, like misdelivering it or whatever. I never got it. And I was like, screw this. And I was going to buy an Android, but then I got it the next day and I was like, okay, you dodged a
Understand
bullet.
one thing. Just understand one thing, and this is for the listeners as well. There is iPhone, there is Samsung, and there is Android. When you're talking about an Android, understand that Samsung is a separate class of its own within the Android ecosystem, and it's like Apple. There's no difference in the way they try to lock you in. They're less successful in it, but they try to, right? So don't pay the Samsung fee, don't pay the Apple fee. If you're looking to buy something else, don't go there. I would also say don't buy the Google one, not the Pixel. Yes, hardware-wise, these machines are terrific, right? But they're not worth the money. Then there's everything else Android. And that's where you start seeing value, and that's when you start seeing good content. Right? So understand that. If you're looking for a way to redeem yourself outside of the Apple ecosystem and say, okay, this was worth it, don't buy a Samsung, don't buy a Google.
I'm not going to get another phone for 10 years because I spent a boatload of money on this phone. And so now I got to make it last. But who knows? The phones all die within 2 years anyway. So they want you to force you to get a new phone.
I had my last phone for a long time. I don't remember what it was before I got this.
Nobody can say that they had a phone longer than I do, so stop that.
Yeah, well, I mean,
all right, listen to this now.
Never mind.
Starlink, like any emerging technology, those satellite components are being hacked. Leonard Wouters, a security researcher at...
What about Hooters?
Wouters. At the Belgian University KU Leuven, will reveal one of the first security breakdowns of Starlink's user terminals. The satellite dishes, dubbed Dishy McFlat face, that are positioned on people's homes and buildings at the Black Hat Security Conference in Las Vegas. He will detail how a series of hardware vulnerabilities allow attackers to access the Starlink system and run custom codes on the devices. To access the satellite dish software, Wouters physically stripped down a dish he purchased and created a custom hacking tool that can be attached to the Starlink dish. The hacking tool, so they're hacking that, but what they're doing is they can actually get to the satellite. So you say, well, I'm not going to let anybody get on my roof to put one of these things, right? Because we always think about our machines doing something. No, but here you can just subscribe to Starlink and put the device, if you're a malicious actor, and put the device on the antenna and break into the satellites and wreak havoc.
How is this any different than the whole max headroom thing? or the guy that hacked the guy that was at the HBO uplink.
Yeah.
When was that? The late 80s or early 90s, and hijacked HBO for a couple of minutes and put some messages on there. I mean, it's really no different than that.
I don't know. And they're saying that SpaceX has issued an update to make the attack harder.
Yeah.
But the underlying issue can't be fixed unless the company creates a new version of the main chip. So all existing user terminals are vulnerable. That's that's bad. Bad.
And they make them fall out of the sky.
I don't know. You mean they break in and they go, come on.
Switch them off. Switch the what's it called? There's thrusters, right? That do corrections. So
Here is something else, and I have not heard about this before. Despite previously claiming the dog walk vulnerability did not constitute a security issue, Microsoft has now released a patch to stop attackers from actively exploiting the vulnerability. The vulnerability, known as CVE 2022 blah 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 or dog walk, allows attackers to exploit a weakness in the Windows Microsoft Support Diagnostic Tool, MSDT. By using social engineering or phishing, attackers can trick users into visiting a fake website or opening a malicious document or file and ultimately gain remote code execution on compromised system. Dog walk. So now
I would agree with Microsoft here, but it's a technicality. So this is again media, right?
Yeah.
Creating a headline about nothing. There was a flaw. They never said the flaw didn't exist. They said it does not constitute as a vulnerability because to get to that point, you need to pass so many hurdles, right? So yes, once through a social engineering scheme, you will get to a point where you get that payload. You might be creating vulnerability, but you need to go through so many hoops, right? And Microsoft cannot patch people; they can only patch systems. So, yeah, they created a patch to make sure that flaw, that potential vulnerability, cannot be exploited, and that's fine. But still, it's like not a big deal. It's not like they're trying to put Microsoft in the place that you said it was nothing. Why did you fix it? Right? It's like, come on.
Well, and to wrap it up here, Meta has been rewriting websites its users visit, letting the company follow them across the web after they click links in its apps, according to a new research from ex-Google engineer. That's coming from The Guardian. The two apps have been taking advantage of the fact that users who click on links are taken to web pages in an in-app browser controlled by Facebook or Instagram, rather than sent to the user's web browser of choice, such as Safari or Firefox.
Which is what Google does, which is what TikTok does, which is what Facebook does, Twitter does. Every single app does that. It's like, what's the news?
I always, whenever I click on any links, it goes to Firefox.
On your phone? He's talking about the phone.
Okay, on the phone, the only time that I see something like this is when there is an Amazon notice and I click on it and it opens a weird
because it creates a web view
Yeah,
control
I
or
closed
something
that.
like that. It's basically a browser that they control.
Yeah, I
Paul's
normally
right, because Discord does it. Anytime you click on a link on a mobile device, it opens up. But you're still in the Discord app, or you're still in TikTok. It just accesses the browser. But
Yeah.
if you want to get off their browser, it's there's like a button you can push on the bottom that will open it up in the browser of your choice. Like on my iPhone, there's like a Safari button I can click, so then it'll open up in Safari for me. So sometimes I stay on natively in their browser in Discord or in TikTok. But if I'm actually going to do something like buy something or actually spend time on the website, I open it up in the browser, because trying to use Discord or TikToks or Facebook's website thing browser is not good. It's like not optimized well or whatever. Like none of my bookmarks are there, none of my stuff's there that helps me browse things. So I just open it up and then close the
Okay.
other one.
But
And-
that has been the case for years. Like it's nothing new. That's why I'm like trying to understand what the news
I don't know.
article is about.
I guess in my case, it's because I don't use the phone to do all that stuff.
Was
So
the
that's
article
why I didn't know.
specifically for mobile, or was it for desktop? Because if it was for desktop, then that's like a whole other can of worms.
Today, when they say apps, they can be talking about desktop or phone.
When they say apps, it's mobile.
The Instagram app injects their tracking code into every
Instagram app,
website
that's a mobile
shown,
thing.
I
including
did
when
read
clicking
something
on ads, enabling. Keep
a
going.
few months ago that said that it was specifically with Facebook, that when you clicked on a link on Facebook in the browser on your computer, it attached a bunch of codes to the URL, and there was a Chrome extension or some kind of extension that would delete those codes, because those were like tracker codes when you went off of Facebook or whatever, and they changed that now to combat the extensions that got rid of those codes. Now, I'm not super tech savvy, so I don't know if that's like true or not, or whatever, but that sounded like a problem, because that wasn't mobile, that was on the browser.
Well, we were talking about this. I think I don't remember if it was Firefox or Chrome who was switching this on by default.
Okay.
The removal of those extensions or something like that.
Okay.
I haven't seen it in action, so I can't comment on how effective it is. But I think the real problem is also not while you're browsing more than when you're sharing a link. Because when you're sharing a link, you're also sharing all of the tracking information about that link to somebody else, right?
Mhm.
And that's part of the reason these extensions, if we want to call them, have been created, have been used, because that provides a lot of information to the source who sends it out. But
to-
I mean, I don't know. I don't know about the effectiveness of removing
to
it.
maybe answer the question here about where is the news. I don't know that this is the news. They say he discovered the code injection by building a tool that could list all the extra commands added to a website by the browser. For normal browsers and most apps, the tool detects no changes. But for Facebook and Instagram, it finds up to 18 lines of code added by the app. Those lines of code appear to scan for a particular cross-platform tracking kit, and if not installed, instead call the MetaPixel, a tracking tool that allows the company to follow a user around the web and build an accurate profile of their interest. The company does not disclose to the user that it's rewriting. No such code is added to the in-app browser of WhatsApp, according to Kraus Research. It is unclear when Facebook began injecting code to track users after clicking links.
I understand what
So-
he's saying. I understand the news article now.
Yeah.
Right? And it sounds like boohoo. Everybody's been doing it for a long time.
Okay.
But now this article is specifically targeted at Meta. So here's the thing. There's this, it's a known thing that, or if you haven't noticed then please do notice that when you click a link from inside an app, you are, some of the apps, they allow you to define open it in my browser, but by default, they will open it in an internal browser, basically, a browser of their own. That browser usually is based on the code base of the browser that's already installed, but as the article stated, it's completely controlled by the calling app, right? In this case, Instagram and stuff. The article specifically is about the Meta solution for that browser, which also adds some tracking information regardless of which site you're going to, right? Because every site today, almost every site, by the way, guys, Amnon site currently doesn't track anybody.
Nope.
But every site today, right, tries to track their users or at
Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Whenever you have a problem getting your message out to your current and future clients, you need professionals like Drago and his team at Oak City Tech to navigate the loud and crowded universe on social media and digital marketing. So go to oakcitytech.com, tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help you. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week on Triangle BNI, we bring you a local small business success story. Each week, if you're not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle is Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill each week, 31 chapters, about 520 members get together, and our goal is to help each other get referrals and grow their business. So each week we bring you a local small business success story, but because I was on vacation all last week, I kind of forgot to book a guest. So love being honest with people because, hey, we all make mistakes. So it's story time this week. Hope you are settled in and hope you enjoy the beach because we were at the beach last week, so we have some beach stories and want to talk about some of the guests we've had before, give you some updates on some of the things they're doing. Because that's what we want to bring you each week are good stories. I know you like them because people keep tuning in, hear the stories about kind of how people got there and what their life is like, and I enjoy the stories as well. I tell people in BNI all the time, just if anybody asks you what you do, just tell a story. And same thing in business anywhere, whether you're in BNI or not. If somebody says, hey, so what do you do? Just say, Mike, let me tell you about a client I helped last week. We love stories. That's how we explain our day. If you are late to work or late somewhere because there was a tanker truck that turned over on I-40 and blocked all 4 or 5 lanes the way you were headed for an hour and a half, you're going to tell that story and you're going to use details like that instead of saying, yeah, there was traffic. You know, we tell stories. So when people say, how's our week, how's our weekend, if it's worth telling, we tell a story. So we were in Destin, Florida. We had to go. I had to go. My wife wanted to go, and I do too. I enjoy it very much. So if you have young kids, here's some parental advice. When they start dating, if they can meet and marry someone whose family owns a condo at Destin or a resort area, please have them date that person just a little bit longer to see if it could work out. Our niece married into a family that owns a condo at Destin, Florida, in the Panhandle, and it's right on the Gulf, and it's beautiful there. And we get invited there at least once a year, and we love going down there. It's a 12-hour drive, so it's a haul. But the good news is Buc-ee's, the great convenience store out of Texas, if you want to call it that, opened up one of their stores in Florence, South Carolina, along I-95. And so we got to stop there. But it's a healthy drive. But it's worth it when you get there because you can relax. I'm a big fan of the waves hitting the shore and just sit and listen. Don't even need to talk to anybody. My wife and I enjoy going to the beach very much, but it took me a long time to figure out why we each enjoyed it so much. Don't know how your relationships go with your significant others or spouses on going to the beach, but my wife loves being on the beach, and I love being at the beach. It was my wife Becky and I and her sister and her husband and her husband's sister. So there were 5 of us. And the 3 girls, I bet they got 6 hours a day on the beach. And that's a lot for me. I can lay out there for about an hour and a half, enjoy going in the water, love the water. But, laying on the beach, I can only read so much. I can only sit in a chair so long. So not quite for me. I'll go back upstairs, hang out, maybe catch a nap, read up on some things, and then go back down there later. But we had a long time. So while I was enjoying myself doing nothing, we ate good, had a drink or two, laughed a lot, played some card games. And I forget the card game we played, but it involved showing colors. And for someone who's colorblind like me, I'll try to get you the name of the card game next time. I should ask that. But it involved colors, and so you had to throw cards down if somebody had the same color hat or same color shoes. I forget the name of it, but some people were dressed, or they're different people, a male, a female, an animal, or something like that, and you had to put down matching cards. So you may put down a card for a female, but I've got an animal card, but they both had red hats. I just laid out the card and say hat, if you can tell red. And so blue, gray, green, I'm done. Pink and purple, if it's not blatant, I'm done. And so a lot of times I'd throw down a card before somebody, and I'd have to ask, does it match? And so my wife won. The other 4, you have to win 3 games. And so my wife won, and the other 4 of us each won 2 games. So I told my wife that I either finished tied for second or tied for last, depending on how you counted that. I like to think I finished tied for second, not tied for last. But so if you ever run across a card game where colors are needed and you're colorblind, just take a pass. Be the scorekeeper or something like that. But we had fun, kind of doing nothing. So that was a lot of fun. And we got back Friday night and then tried to figure out what day it was, what time it was on Saturday and Sunday, tried to get back in the routine of things. But it was a lot of fun. So today I was going to mention a couple folks that have been on the show before, kind of give you an update on things. And if anybody wants to chime in and send a note, please do.
Absolutely. At
Yep.
919-518-9773.
Yep. So if you have a favorite beach story, we'd love to hear about it. So here's a good parent move that we like doing, but it was a little out of the way. So if you're familiar with Destin, it's in the Panhandle. Closest big city to it is Pensacola. And we were there from 2 Thursdays ago till this past Thursday. And on Monday, last Monday, while we were in Destin, my wife called our youngest son, Cameron. He and our daughter-in-law live in Lakeland, Florida, which is between Orlando and Tampa and not really near Destin. So Becky said, hey, let's leave a little bit early on Thursday and go to Destin and spend the day with Cameron and Jen and then head back home Friday. So I'm like, all right. So as good parents do, instead of driving 12 hours back home, we drove 6 hours the other way to spend time with our son and daughter-in-law, which we enjoyed very much. Sometimes you just need a hug from your kids, no matter what their age is. And then we drove 10.5 hours back home. So it added a little bit of time, but it was worth it. It was a lot of fun. And just, again, you're in the car. So, either if I'm driving, my wife's on her phone. And that just, stuff that happened over the weekend when we were driving back was Queen Elizabeth. It's interesting on that world and the protocol and everything that goes into it. And I learned a few things about what's supposed to happen and who does what. But, so you find funny things, Instagram post, play a song or something like that. But it was good. It was good. Glad to be back. Always love Mondays, but I do miss the beach.
Now, tell us, it's in this time, you traveled 12 hours.
Yes.
What did you see as far as gas prices?
We saw, what did we hit? 330 3:31 at Buc-ee's in Florence, and then we filled up again on the other side of Jacksonville and paid like 3:45. Florida was higher.
So it's about, but yeah, but I
Yeah,
mean,
but
in
Florida
general-
was 10, 15 cents higher than South Carolina and Georgia were. And then coming back from Lakeland, we hit the Buc-ee's in Daytona at 3:31, and then hit the Buc-ee's in Florence going back on Friday for 3:29.
So it went down.
A couple cents, yeah.
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 Oh,
So I was
interesting.
pleased with it. And there were a ton of cars on the road. Orlando folks, if I can give you any advice, do not drive through Orlando on I-4. If you don't have to, don't ever do it. Because we went through at 11 a.m. on a Friday, and it was still but it was still, I guess, Disney season because you have to go by the Disney exits. But if you have a chance to not drive through Orlando, either pick 6 a.m. or 10 p.m. Basically before the sun comes up or after it's gone down, do that because Orlando is never fun. There's just not enough lanes there. It's a major artery across the state of Florida other than I-10 that's up in the Panhandle. I-4 is in the middle of the state, goes from Daytona through Orlando to Tampa, and it's just brutal traffic. And then you throw Disney on there and Universal exits, and you get summertime and no fun. So we didn't miss that. We used to live in Daytona Beach, but we did not miss that. So anyways, one of the guests we've had on the show, you may remember Wes Harper. He owns Lightwire Inc., a computer company, a telecommunications company, but he is our resident Naked and Afraid contestant from the Triangle. And Wes has been on the show a couple times promoting being on the show. And if you've watched the show at all, you understand what they live through in the heat. Wes has been on a show in South America. He's been on a show in Africa, and I think now he's been on 12 total episodes because the one that just showed the other night was Naked and Afraid Frozen. They sent them to Montana for the winter. Well, they were clothed, but I think that's about all they had. So I missed it, but I'm going to go back and watch it. But and Wes told the story that he grew up outdoors. That's what his family did. They went camping. They never got a hotel room. They pitched tents, a little trailer, whatever they needed to do. So he enjoyed that. And one day, he and his wife were watching the show long before he got on. And he was complaining about why are they doing this, why are they doing that. And she said, you know what, put your money where your mouth is and apply for the show. And he kind of hemmed and hawed. Well, she applied for him. And about a year later, he got accepted. And the first thing he did once he got accepted was he started walking around the neighborhood barefoot because he knew he had to make his feet very tough. Because when you go to the South America and Africa, there's no grass and nothing's cold, nothing's cool on the feet because you're there in the summertime. Heat a day, no shoes, no socks, no nothing. So he knew he had to toughen up his feet. And you could take one thing with you, a rope, a knife, you get one thing. So he spent some time figuring out what that would be. And then just generally living outside, walking around as much as he could without a shirt on and shorts so his body can get used to the heat. And then doing some research on those areas to figure out what you can eat and what you can't eat and what you can cook to eat. So just all the snakes and the mosquito or the bugs.
It was interesting.
It was, yeah. So anyways, he's on Naked and Afraid Frozen, and that's Discovery Channel. If you missed it the other day, if it's on one of your streaming services, you probably ought to check that out. Good dude, and loves doing that, and he's 50. And he's doing that. And his son was on one, what are we in, September? His son was on one from the summertime. And so I'm going to have him on here again now that he's back to talk about both of them. But I think the only thing he told me about with his son being on the show was completely different than he thought it would be. So, but that was good to catch up. I caught up with him, I don't know, a couple weeks ago or so, just on a quick email on how he was doing. I don't know, nothing about that interests me. Nothing. I know there's a show, Survivor. And then what was the one, the race, the tandem is two people something race.
The Great Race?
Yeah, something like that, where they would, get on a plane and go, no, none of that. Well, of course, we didn't travel growing up. My dad was a leave Monday morning salesman, come home Friday night, so we just didn't go anywhere that much. But none of that interests me. So for those of you that do, I tip my hat and salute you on that, because nothing happening here with that. Kind of like camping. I'll do a tent. Got a friend of mine, Chip, who's been on the show before. He loves camping, but his wife won't sleep on the ground, so she does not go tent camping with him. Years ago, I could have. Not so much now with my back. As we were laughing before we came on here, I've just for years. Well, since we lived in Daytona Beach, so I think it's happened about 2003, maybe. My back I did something. I know it was boarding up my house and my neighbor's house for a series of 3 hurricanes are getting ready to come through. And that's when everything started. So my new normal, now I feel good today. My new normal is 9, but an old school number, it would have been a 4. Because there's no the pain's gone, but no flexibility. So, but for those of you that like camping, hey, kudos to you on that. Another character on the show this would gone back. So this is show number 175. So Charles Calloway, he was on episode 83 back in March of 2020. I cannot believe how long we've been on the air.
Yeah.
This is great. He and I were talking. So when I do research on the guests coming on, I want to find cool stuff to talk about, because I need to be intrigued and entertained, because that's just the way I am. It's the goofy stuff that intrigues me. And so I saw that Charles and I had a couple of connections through things, and one of them was the city of Cleveland, Ohio. And I was born there. And so I was asking Charles about it. He goes, yeah, I was born there too. And we talked about I think I'm about 5 years older than him. And we got talking about things. I told him I was born at the Salvation Army Home for Unwed Mothers, because my dad bragged to his friends for years that he got me in and out of the hospital for under $50. That was one of the great stories he would tell. And Charles was laughing about that, and I got a call from him like 2 weeks later, and he said, I was born in that same hospital. So, I mean, you just never know. We talk about that in B&I all the time. You just never know the connections we have with people. So every time Charles and I are on a Zoom call, I always bring that up, that we were brothers from the same city, different parents, and about 5 years apart, but we have a lot of fun with that. A couple other things with some folks on that. There's one that hasn't been on the show yet that I'm going to have on. His name is Carlton White. He is a business broker in the Bull City, Durham chapter. And if you're a fan of the movie Bull Durham, there's a great scene on the mound when Nuke LaLoosh was on the mound. Kevin Costner was the catcher. He walks out to the mound. He goes, hit the mascot. And Nuke goes, why? And he goes, just hit the mascot. Because he wanted to show the batter in the box, like, I got no idea where it's going, really. Well, Carlton was the mascot. He actually played the mascot in the movie. So one day we're going to get him on and have him on there and tell stories about that. But he's 6'6". And he was in the mascot. He was in the mascot costume. I think he was maybe in 2 scenes, but he will forever be known as the mascot that got hit by the ball in Bull Durham, which was a hilarious scene. But those are the type of people in B&I. One of our second guest, third guest, fourth guest, Jed Gronwald. He is a realtor with Hunter Rowe, and he and his wife did a pilot for HGTV about flipping houses. And it was a very interesting conversation, because another person in B&I in a separate chapter, but now, in a separate chapter, Jonathan Brothers, who owns a construction company, was in the pilot as well. So that, a couple chapters collaborating together, and HGTV did not pick up. Oh, very nice. There's Jed. God, look at that. Oh, no beard I had. Jed has great hair. Yeah. But anyways, he told the story. He and his wife did the pilot. It didn't go for whatever reason, and he said they're not really told the full reason why. But I mean, they got to shoot a pilot for HGTV, so I thought that was pretty cool. And Marcella Stewart, everybody's favorite Mary Kay cosmetic expert. I think I talked to Marcella, probably swapped emails, I don't know, 4 months ago or so. Somebody wanted to meet somebody who does Mary Kay, was wanting to join a BNI chapter in another region or another area. And so I put her in touch with Marcella. I said, you're not going to learn from anybody better on how to grow your business. And I think I follow Marcella on Facebook, and I think she's on about her 5th pink Cadillac now. So it's legit. I mean, she is a hustler, and she helps people. She connects people. She finds out what they want. There's Marcella, one of the great characters on the show. Heck of a storyteller. But, yeah, she's on her, I think it's her 5th pink Cadillac. So I do like telling those stories because those are the types of people in BNI. They're involved in the community. They're collaborative, and we have fun together. If your family ever owned anything growing up, we had Carol Commandi on, and Carol is a U.S. health advisor. And she grew up in New Jersey, and her parents owned a bowling alley. And one of the things we laughed about is all the friends you can make when your high school friends find out your parents own a bowling alley. Like, hey, can we go bowl? Sure. Can we bowl for free this time? No, you can't. You have to pay just like last time. And so Carol and I had a good time talking about that because when I moved back to Raleigh in 2009, I ran the AMF Bowling Center in Durham. And I had bowled before in some leagues, but never been involved in bowling in a facility or knowing the industry much. And those bowlers are funny. The old guys, there's Carol. She's with U.S. Health Advisors. We laughed about that. And these old guys would come in. I think they had a Wednesday morning league. No, it was a Tuesday or Thursday league. That's what it was, but I think it was Thursday. I know it wasn't Tuesday. I think it was Thursday. And Duke University had their PE class, their bowling PE class at our facility because they didn't have any lanes or they just had a couple lanes on campus. So they'd rent out 8 to 10 lanes each semester, and they'd have a bowling class there. And so these old guys were sitting down there one day. There's probably 15 of them, and they're just shooting the breeze. And it took me a while to figure out who the liars were and who the truth tellers were. But it's funny. You look at people, and then you learn about them later, and you have no idea that they have money or no idea what their background was. But there are a couple of guys that just drove just dirt poor cars, and you'd never know. And they're retired IBMers and GE used to have a big plant in Durham, but wonderful guys, great storytellers, but half of them were lying, and they all knew that. And so one day, I think this was the first or second day of class that I noticed it, and I think the class was like 10:30 to 11:45. And so the students from Duke start, coming in. The teacher was there, so we knew, they're with her. And in walks this beautiful 6'2" tall female. So I figured she was either a basketball player or volleyball player because I've been around enough of those to know the build. And she walked in, and all 15 of those guys, their heads just started doing this. As she walked by them, they watched her walk all the way down. They were on like lane 17 and 18, and the PE classes were on lanes, 3 through 8, something like that. And so they all watched her, and I could not get down to their lanes quick enough just to tell them, boys, there's nothing you have she wants. Because you're all 70 or better. I don't care how much money you got, but she's not talking to you, so quit looking at her. And, of course, they just fell out of their chairs laughing. So every Thursday when they would come in, they'd start looking. I'm like, boys, eyes on the lane here. But, yeah, so those guys thought they had game, and they're just so much fun. I love the bowlers. A lot of the folks that bowl at the Durham facility are family because they've grown up watching their kids and others' kids grow up. Just wonderful people there. Love doing that. But it would have been fun, I think, to have your parents own a bowling alley. But I think it'd be a royal pain in the butt for all those friends, right, who, oh, Mike, yeah, boy, I've been meaning to catch up with you. Hey, you know what? No, dude, you didn't like me before you knew my parents had a bowling alley. We're not about to talk now. So,
well, Makes you popular.
It does. And now it's probably a great pickup line if you need, like, hey, want to go bowling? Walk in there, free drink, free food, whatever. But, the friends, once they find out, I guess it's like family members when we hear stories about somebody winning the lotto. And all of a sudden, hey, Mike, remember me? I'm your third cousin. Yeah, I've been thinking about you a lot lately. And how you doing? Like, I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking. Click. So we laugh about that. And I'm sure that happens all the time.
Yeah.
I enjoy, as everybody knows if you watch a show, one of my favorite questions to ask is, how did you meet your spouse? And you both tell the story the same way? Because I always like to hear if they tell the story the same way. And it's usually the guys will go, yeah, I kind of think so. And the wives are like, no, we don't tell the story the same way. Because as I've said before, we guys tell the story better with more details about how beautiful our wives were the first time we saw them. And one of the better stories was Becky Bennett. Becky was on show number 112 back in February in 2021. She owns a company called The Design Corner. She can put a logo on anything. You name it. Keychains, a mug, T-shirts, parkas. If you need something, go to The Design Corner. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So Becky is a lifelong Apex resident. She was born there. She was raised there. She still lives there. She actually lives in the house now that she was raised in, which is a cool story. I love small town like that. So one day she's walking to, I forget where she was walking. I think it was school, but can't quite remember. And her now husband, Bill, was driving the other way in a truck, had never seen Becky before. Becky had never seen Bill. And Bill was driving by, got a look at Becky, drove a little bit further down the road, turned his truck around, and came back and parked in the middle of the road till she looked back over at him, which I think is a great story. And that's how that relationship started. And they're a little bit, most people are younger than me, but they're a little bit younger than me, but that's how long they've been together. There's Becky. Yeah, but she tells, we love telling the story. So now when I introduce somebody to Becky via email, I will say, oh, that was during COVID, because I was at home for that.
Yep.
Wow. Golly, I can't remember when
it
it all...
February 8th, 21.
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, February 8th. I'm trying to remember when all that started. I believe was it
2020.
2020. So we were a year into that when I started doing the shows from home. Wow, forgot all about that. But anyway, so when I do an email for someone to meet Becky because they need help putting logos on something, I'll say, and by the way, when you do finally talk to Becky, ask her how she met Bill. Or ask her about the truck in the middle of the road is all I say. I don't even say Bill. I said just ask Becky about the truck in the middle of the road. She loves telling the story. But again, it's stories that connect people. How we met, did we go to school together, did our kids grow up together, stuff like that. Couple more on here. Scott Corbin, who's a realtor in one of the Cary groups, he was on, September 27th, 2021, yep. So about a year ago, episode number 136. And Scott trained in F-4s and F-15 fighter jets, which is very impressive. I could not. I think I would go up in one of those, but I'm not really sure. There's Scott. It's not afraid of heights or anything like that. I've flown in helicopters, which I love flying in helicopters. But just to be able to do that and the reflexes those folks need to have when they're engaged in something is just beyond my comprehension. It's fighter pilots and hockey goalies. And I know I'm simplifying because one is more life or death than the other. But the reflexes and the anticipation they have to have, but to train in those and be able to fly those at Mach 1 and all of a sudden you got to drop 8,000 feet or go, supersonic and go up 10,000 feet is very impressive. But I enjoyed those stories from Scott because, again, it's something I know nothing about, never flown in one, was never going to, and I'm not going to, they're not going to put me in a jet for any reason. No reason to invite me anywhere. So, but I'm just amazed to learn about people who are different than I am, how they were raised, what they do, what they look like, their beliefs and stuff like that. So, because I know I know middle-aged white male. I get that lifestyle. But like Amnon's from another country. I ask him questions all the time about it. I love learning because it is different. And I wish I've had a couple of nieces and nephews that had a chance to travel to Europe, and I took go. Stay as long as you can just to learn about other cultures. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Makes you appreciate
it.
When
Does.
You come back here.
It really does. And then you can learn things and probably learn to be a little bit more compassionate because just because we do it this way doesn't mean it's right or better. So I enjoy that. Patrick Griffin was on the next week. He ran for office in Wake Forest, just something he wanted to do. And I applaud him for that because I think he'd laugh that he spent $20 on his campaign because he didn't buy signs. Obviously didn't buy any radio time or anything like that, but just wanted to do something. I thought about doing that years ago when we were in Daytona Beach running for the school board and decided not to. But for people who run for elected office, I admire them for wanting to do that because it's not easy. And the higher up you get, it's not as easy. And there's more junk that goes with it. But locally, it's where most of the decisions are made that affect our life. So had a lot of fun with Patrick. And he and his wife, I think about that show, they had lost, I think, about a combined 165 pounds because they just had enough. And they know they need to do something. We got a couple of small kids. And Patrick works his butt off in BNI, and I love to tell the story about here's how it works. They just bought a mountain house, so he's doing something right. A few weeks after that, Mark Armstrong on November 15th. He owns the Wow One Day Painting franchise, one of the two. I think there's three now in the Triangle. Mark owns one of them. You may remember him from the ABC affiliate here in the Triangle. He was one of the sports guys for years. Nice fellow. His wife, May, is from the Philippines. And speaking of other countries, Amnon, you'll appreciate this.
Yeah.
In other countries, you're expected to haggle.
Yeah.
The price is not the price. That's what's listed. Whereas in the U.S., we go in and we pay our $3.49 or $81.72. There's no haggling because we don't do that here. I took a trip. I've been to Mexico and separate trips, obviously, Mexico and Russia. And both of those trips involved haggling, and I love that. There's Mark. The minute you know you have control of the conversation when you turn to walk away and they go, no, hang on a sec. I said 40. I meant 30 for you, I love that because you find out what they really need to make. They may list it for 40. They bought it for 8, so they'll take $18 or $22 for it. They'd love to get 40, but you got to haggle. So Mark told the story. He and his wife, May, went into a place. I think they were, I believe it was in the States, but it was in a place where you could haggle. I forget where it was. And they walked
Flea market.
Yeah, it was a flea market, but I can't remember exactly where it was. But there's this nice, I believe it was a painting that May looked at it and liked. And Mark's like, I can't afford that. And she goes, hang on. And walked over there, started haggling with the guys. And Mark had not grown up around haggling. He said he just turned and walked away. He's like, what are you doing? You're going to insult him. And what we learn is we insult you if we don't haggle, which most of us never knew growing up here in the States, that's part of the deal is the haggling. And they want you to haggle because they want to sell it to you, because they want to make some money. But he said he just turned and walked away, could not believe what his wife was doing, and she got what she wanted, the price she wanted. So
I think I told her the story when my parents came here the first time when we got married, and I went with my dad to, it used to be Big Star.
Big Star.
Big Star was a grocery store,
Okay.
one of them big grocery, like Food Line.
Mm-hmm.
And we're checking out, and I put the milk there, and she puts it, I think it was $1.99 a gallon.
Yeah.
And my father goes, no, $1.50.
That's right, you did. I remember that. And you turned beet red.
Yeah, I
right?
mean, and I said, Dad, we don't do that here.
But the first time, because my wife and I met and got married in Austin, Texas. And her brother for years has lived down in South Padre Island, which is right on the border of Texas and Mexico. And so we went to visit him one day. This is before we had kids, so this is probably 85 maybe, 84, 85. And we went down there, so we're walking through their version of the flea market. And nobody told me the rules. I didn't know you're supposed to do that. And so we walked over to buy something. Her brother JJ walked over to buy something. And same thing happened. The guy said, here's the price. And JJ goes, nah, man, I'll give you 10 for that. I forget what it was. Probably wasn't anything significant. And so I had two thoughts. One is, what is he doing? And the other thought was, I want to stay and watch what he's doing because I was very intrigued by that. So I love that. The haggling is, you can't do it here because I don't think the folks at Target or Food Lion or Publix or anything would like that, nor could they.
You can haggle with the owner of something. You can't haggle with the...
No, it's their job just to check it out. They're,
right.
They have no authority there. So that was that was so funny. I enjoyed that a lot. A couple of weeks, this was back in June, Mike Mullins, who's this would have been June 27th. Mike is a financial advisor for Edward Jones, and he's all of 6'7". He played offensive tackle for Virginia football team. And he has two brothers. They're both about 6'5", and he just told stories about the damage they did to their house, doors, interior doors that they would push the other brother through. There's Mike. You don't know that he's 6'7", but he's healthy. He's a healthy boy. And, you play offensive tackle in football, you're eating, and you can't keep the weight on. He said after each game in high school, they'd bring on large pizzas onto the bus, and each lineman got a whole pizza to themselves. And so he's big, but he told wonderful stories about one day, one brother was on the other side of a closed door, and Mike would not acknowledge if he was the pusher or the pushee on the other side of the door. But one brother pushed the other brother through the door, and the third brother was on his hands and knees behind the door, meaning the middle brother who was pushed just fell flat through the door and then straight onto his back because there's nowhere to go but down because the other brother was behind him waiting for him to trip. And so stories like that I just love. Melvin Green, who was on February of this year, was in the Air Force, and he flew B-52s. And one of the cool stories was Diego Garcia, which is an island, I believe, about the size of this desk that Amnon and I are sitting at. And it's a refueling station. That's all it is. There's a couple of long runways. There's Melvin State Farm. There's a couple of runways. There's some bunks for the planes that land there overnight, the guys and girls that are on the plane to sleep, and then they refuel and take off somewhere in the Pacific to wherever else they're going. Because my father-in-law had flown there before, many times, being in the Air Force. And just to hear those stories about, you have a flight that long, you got 2 refuels, and you land on something that just pops up in the Indian Ocean. You spend the night, you refuel, and then you head on. It's like, yeah, we did that. Because to them, it's like, yeah, we did that because we've done it before. Where the rest of us are like, what was that like? So, trying to think what else. But anyways, those are the type of stories that we love bringing to you each week, and we appreciate everybody that comes along with us at 11 a.m. Eastern on Mondays. And there will be a guest tomorrow. There will be a guest the Mondays after that. So, I enjoy telling stories, but I know you enjoy hearing from guests as well because we laugh a lot. So, but appreciate everybody following the show. Like I said, this is episode number 175. And because the first one, I had to print this out just to make sure because I don't ever remember. July 9th, 2018. Because one day, the beauty of being I've told this story, is our Amnon and I have a mutual friend, Jim Bowdish, with Edward Jones. I moved here in 74, to Raleigh in 74, and Jim lived here, so we've known each other that long. And I was talking to him one day. This would have been, I guess, July, so this might have been like March or April. And I told Jim that I wanted to start a show like this, just to interview B&I people, just to chat and learn and laugh. I said, but I have no technical skills, but more importantly, I don't want to learn technical skills. I just want to show up and do the show and ask the questions. He goes, call Amnon. I'm like, who's Amnon? He goes, shut up and call Amnon. Here's his number. So I do what smart people tell me to do. I called Amnon, came over one day. We chatted. He said, get everything set up. What do you need? What do you want to do? And we'll talk more. There's Jim. And one of his kids finally moved out of the house. Yeah, she moved to the West Coast, yeah, which is funny. Our boys have been grown and gone for, Travis will be 36 in November. Cameron just turned 32. And so it's funny when they move out of the house. Now that you look back on it, it's not much fun when they do finally move out, especially a long way. I think she moved to the West Coast. But anyways, Jim said, call Amnon, and I came over one day. We talked. He said, what do you need? What do you want to do? Come back to me with a plan. I put a plan together, showed up, and I got the easiest job because I literally walk in here and I sit down and start talking. Amnon does all the work. He pushes all the buttons. But that's what I needed to do a show like this. So if you want to do something, folks, just find somebody that'll help you. Don't listen to people say, no, you can't do it, or no, you shouldn't do it. If you want to do it, find somebody that will help you do it. Because that's what Jim did for me, and I come in here every week, and Amnon and I have a good time laughing and talking, and his dog Gaia sitting over there in the chair on the other side of the camera. That dog just sleeps through the show, which tells you how interesting I could be sometimes.
No. God, did you hear that?
But she greets me at the door every Monday. She barks, wags her tail. As soon as we open the door and I start petting her, if she quits barking, still wags the tail. So, but if you want to do something, just keep asking people. Find somebody that'll help you do it. So that's the moral of the show today. And again, I appreciate everybody joining us every Monday. Hope you enjoy the stories we bring you. And we'll have a good one next week. And I promise you I'll fill out the guest slots the rest of the year. Because I'm more entertained when I have somebody to talk to than when I'm on here. So anyways, signing off from Triangle BNI. We'll see you next week on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.
Linked to some sort of ad network that tracks users' behavior in order to feed them ads. So what the article is trying to scare people off is, hey, you should know that Meta, once you're using their browser, as long as you're in their browser, they're tracking you.
Yeah.
I would say that is old news, right? And that is also correct for every single application. So this is also true for Gmail, right? If you open from your Gmail application, whether Android or iPhone, where you open Gmail application, you're clicking on the link, you get a web view within Gmail, and Google is tracking you. If you use with Yahoo, then Yahoo is tracking you. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter which company you're talking about.
Interesting.
And it's the equivalent of running a browser with an extension that tracks you, right? No, regardless which application you're using. So be aware. It's not news, but be aware.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, well, it's that time. I didn't realize that Nick left.
Yeah, you have to leave.
Yeah. But it's this time of day. Anything else anybody wants to add? Nope. All right. So thanks, Gal. Thanks, Katie.
No problem. Glad I can contribute.
Mhm. And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie and Donna, Dina, Eleanor, Sarid. Did I say Katie and Donna? I did. Yaakov and Yael, No, it's done. I'm not. Katie's here already. Thank you for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing, back up your hard drive, and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. And remember, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., Nick is on Wilmington's 980 The Wave and 107.9 FM with his daily news show. You can tell your Echo device or others to play 980 The Wave. Or you can always go to the recordings at nickcraig.com. And Tuesdays at 7 p.m., Nick and Brian do the Infection Podcast on Twitch. That's for survival games and gaming news. So Tuesday at 7 p.m., twitch.tv/Infection Podcast. Enjoy. Have a great week. See you next week.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.
Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. We talk each week about the digital world. It's loud, crowded, it's liars, it's half-truthers. It's all kind of stuff out there. So you need professionals like Drago and his team at Oak City Tech to help you get your message out there correctly to your current and future clients. Go to oakcitytech.com. Tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help you. Everybody, my name is Mike Manning. Each week here on Triangle BNI, we talk to a local small business success story. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, and the surrounding towns, feature 31 groups every week getting together to help each other grow our business. And our guest today is Kirsten Yancey with TMS Digital. She is a member of RD38, the Cleveland Connection. They meet Tuesday mornings at noon. Kirsten is the visitor host, which means she's very nice to people and welcoming and remembers names from everybody from all of 2022. Kirsten, good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. I hope you are.
I am. So visitor host, fun job because you get to meet everybody. Every week at the meetings, you're one of the few that gets to shake everybody's hands.
Yep. Shake hands, remember names, gotta say the name about 7 times with me to remember it.
Yeah, or find something that, oh yeah, I've got a brother or a sister that's their name. And if I remember, so it's hard.
Yeah, it's the, high end at this,
So anyways, it is a fun job because like I said, you get to meet everybody, but TMS Digital, a family-owned business out of Clayton, and you are a brand ambassador there. So does that mean going on TV, going to car shows, go to festivals on weekends, all that stuff?
Actually, I mean, sure. I am All over our social media. I am a Clayton Chamber of Commerce ambassador. So you'll find me at the networking events for the Clayton Chamber of Commerce. I am technically a digital marketing specialist. So I'm meeting and onboarding clients for TMS Digital. But as far as brand ambassador, yes, I am the face of TMS. So if you were to go on our Facebook and Instagram page, you'll see me a lot. It just happened that way. And so,
it works for everybody, right? Because nobody else wants to do that, which means, hey, tag, you're it. So, for those of us with businesses, we're going to talk about web design in a second, but social media, where do we make mistakes?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
Well, and that's why I didn't ask how many, because that's like 7,212. I thought if we started with where do we get ourselves in trouble?
So there's a fine line between, because I tell folks, I say, people can spot a stock photo a mile away. You want to be personal because the clients will connect with that. Or potential clients. You don't want to get too personal though. Nobody wants to know even if they align with your political and religious views, don't cross that line on your business pages. So that's where we found those mistakes are the biggest mistakes for social media for businesses.
And a couple of things that jump out at me, especially on LinkedIn, where I spend most of my time there, is the horrible cell phone picture. It's a selfie. You can tell they're doing this, right? Or it's a picture of their dog. They run a window cleaning business and there's a picture of their dog. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
And I don't get just take a professional photo and put it up there. But I see it's simple things like that. When somebody goes to check you out, I think a lot of people want to know that, hey, they're buttoned up, they mean business.
Yeah. I tell people that is something I say. If I'm confused, then your everyday consumer is confused because I do this all day long, 40 hours a week, sometimes 50 hours a week. If I'm confused by looking at you, then I know Susie Q is.
Now, which makes you cringe more, a bad picture or no picture?
No picture.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Because I don't know what I'm going to expect.
Yeah. Do you exist? A, do you exist? And B, and I love and I'm a little old to do this, but I think I'm sure folks in your age range have thrown that late college picture up there or first job out of college, which may be 8 to 10 to 12 years later, and try to pull that off. And then you meet them, you're like, huh.
Once I started noticing I don't look like that anymore, it's time to rotate those photos out.
Yeah, and during COVID, I grew a beard, and I had to get a new picture taken because that's the right thing to do. This is what you're going to see, like it or not. This is what you're going to get.
You're not Mike.
I know. So. I love family-owned stories and businesses, and your dad started the company in 1998 in Rocky Mount. It's now based out of Clayton. It was originally Tar Heel Media Digital.
Tar Heel Media Solutions.
So, sorry. Okay.
We went through a couple different phases. So when we first started out in 98, we were strictly the phone book. So it was Tar Heel Pages. Yep. And when we started evolving and incorporating the digital aspect, which was in 2009, then we were Tar Heel Media Solutions because we were still doing the telephone directory, some print advertising. We did sort of like a Clipper, but hyper local in Johnston County. And then also the digital aspect. So we were your media solutions. And then when we became just digital. We kept the Tar Heel Media Solutions, the TMS, and we're strictly digital. So TMS digital.
Would love a show of hands of the folks watching and listening. Who knows what a phone book is? When was the last time you used it? And yes, there were companies back in the day, I'm sure most of us remember, that nothing but the phone book, and that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I need an auto mechanic. Let's go to the Yellow Pages and just start. And that's why it was great at that point in time for your company to be named. First letter was A, like A Auto, not just auto, but A Autos.
It was A1 or triple A1. And I had to tell a couple people, they said, especially if they're younger than me, because, and granted, I've only used a phone book a couple of times, less than a handful of times. And, some of the younger folks, they're like, why would they be named, triple A1, blah, blah, blah. I go, that means this company has been around for at least 30 years.
Yes.
They're like, huh? I go, alphabetical order in the phone book. You wanted to be first.
Oh, it's so good back then. But you just scrolled through and, either the first one that popped up or whatever the first one nearest you popped up, and we just called them and went.
Yeah.
And those days, oh boy. When was the last time you guys ever printed one of those?
So we actually had our very last directory was the 2017 to 2018 edition in Rockingham County. Yeah.
Okay.
Not that recent.
Wow.
They loved the phone book up there. They really did. They were upset that we were discontinuing it in 2017.
Oh yeah.
And we were like, I'm sorry, y'all. Like this, it's the internet, you know, like it was pulling teeth to get them to quit.
Yeah. And it's funny what you and your dad have seen from the first time, because you started there in 2004. It was a summer job. And just what you've seen now. Now we're worried about, will my website transfer onto a cell phone? So it comes up properly, is it, set up and everything like that. And again, I mean, who knew we would be here back in 2004? I'm sure somebody did. Well, Steve Jobs did. We know that.
Yeah.
But just the stuff you've seen in our thought process on just how to use and find information.
Mm-hmm. It's nuts. I mean, I still remember the first time I had a computer, the first cell phone I got. I was much older than my nieces are 10 and 8 now, and they got their first cell phones last Christmas. I was 14 when I got my first cell phone, and it was the Nokia that had Snake on it. There was no internet on a cell phone back then. I just got it so I could play Snake because everybody else was talking about it. But yeah, I mean, just to think about in that short span of time as well, to go from a Nokia to I forget the one that like flipped around with the keyboard, you could actually access the internet on that. I mean, the screen was teeny tiny and you couldn't really read anything, but you could access the internet. And then immediately it was the iPhones, and the iPhones blew up. And over 80% of contact to the internet is via a mobile device. So it's nuts.
And I'm still an Android user. I've tried the iPhone a couple times. Family members have them. And as I gotten older, I just explained to people, my eyes just don't see it. That's the best way I can explain. There's just no connection. But with a Samsung, it's nice and easy, and I don't need it for a lot. But back in the day, my brothers he had a BlackBerry. He loved those things.
We have found that if you were a BlackBerry user, that Android is how you pivoted to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he loved it.
And I tell people all the time, I'm like, I don't have anything against Androids. iPhone was the very first smartphone I ever used. And it's about like, I don't want to learn having used another phone if I'm comfortable with the phone that I've had for, 10 years now. So
yeah, you didn't have to relearn anything, so why start with that? So
I look at my dad's phone, I'm like, hey, this is like a different language to me.
You mean you look at his flip phone?
No, he's got an Android.
My dad, considerably older than your dad, years ago, we'd always give him grief because he wouldn't text. He's got grandkids, he's got kids, everybody's texting, right? And it's like, Dad, just flip open your phone, we'll show you how you can text. Of course, his flip phone, you had to punch the same number 3 times to get the third letter on that, which, right? Oh yeah, it would take you forever.
I loved that.
Oh no, he hated that, which is one of the reasons why he didn't text. But we'd ask him something about his phone. He goes, can you do that on your phone? He goes, no, but I have an app for it. Which that's his way of telling us, just shut up. I'm done talking.
Yeah.
But yep. And I've not gotten to the point yet where I have one of those oversized phones with font size this big for the letters so I can see them. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
I'm kind of I kind of see why people get it, but I'm not quite there yet. So. Working for a parent, more pressure or less pressure?
More, 100%. People would, my first year in sales here, when I said that I was the boss's daughter, they're like, oh, well then you should definitely be able to come. And I was like, no, I am under more scrutiny than anybody else here. If I, leave out one thing from my notes, it's Kirsten, what? So, yes, I'm definitely held to a higher standard. So I am, and I love it. I mean, the more, I don't want to be in a too relaxed of an environment, because that's when you start to lose your work ethic, So.
And when you first came to work there, did you and your dad decide on what you were going to call him?
So it's a very laid back environment. So there's only a couple of people who call him Mr. Hayes. For the most part, he's on a first name basis with everybody. He came from corporate, which, he hated it. And that's why he started his own business. And he doesn't want anybody here to feel like they're in a corporate situation. So, he makes everybody feel at home here and that they're another member of the family.
So what do you call him at work?
I call him Jeff.
Okay. All right. And I've seen both with people working for their parents. Everybody's whatever they agree upon, that's fine.
Yeah.
So
I'll say my dad or Jeff, so
the furthest client from Clayton, North Carolina of yours is where?
Oregon.
Nice.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
I was on vacation. It never turns off.
How'd you run across him then?
We were at a diner. There was a cork board with a bunch of business cards. And I called him. Well, I called all of the business cards that I picked up. But he was like, actually, I've been thinking about putting together a website. Oh, got some time to meet tomorrow. And
nice.
Yeah. That was 2018 or 2019.
Good for you.
So
did your dad let you write the whole trip off then?
Well, it was on his ticket to begin with, so he was excited about it because then it turned into a business.
Okay, good. Well, that's a cool story. I like that.
Yeah.
2 things we must have on our website.
Contact information, and call to action buttons.
Hang on a sec. It's sad that you have to lead with contact information. Is that not the reason why we have a website? And I'm amazed at the people that make it so hard for me to get in touch with them.
There was one I came into contact with, I think it was last week. It might have been the week before, but I had to go digging for his information. It wasn't even on the contact page because it was nowhere on the homepage. And I was like, all right, contact page. He had no contact form either. And I want to say it was at the bottom of the about page. So it was on a random, it was in a random area. Like it just did not make sense. So, yeah.
I'm just amazed. And the other thing that gets me is one of the big things we learn in BNI is relationship marketing. We get to know, like, and trust people so we can refer them. And more times than not, I believe when I go to somebody's website, their about section, if they have it, I think it's done wrong because it doesn't personalize anything. You don't have to have the life history of the owner, but give me a picture or give me how the company started. You guys do it right, obviously, but there's so many people that fail to connect with people that come to their website.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. Why?
Yeah. It's like, why have the about page if it's not truly about?
Do they feel like that maybe that's not corporate enough and they're trying to be corporate instead of a business in Clayton or Apex or, Fuquay? I mean, I just, so anyways, tell them to put that up there. For what it's worth, tell them Mike said, put the stuff up there. People want to people want to know. The transition. Okay. So from print and digital, we talked about some funny stuff as you guys grew. COVID years, and I don't think it's over, so I'm not going to get on any soapbox or anything like that one way or the other. But from the day everybody was sent home, most companies like, hey, everybody's working from home now. How did that change for you guys with the way companies wanted to or did promote what services they had?
So of course it was scary for everybody in that first month, nobody knew what was going to happen. Like, is my business going to fail miserably? And we actually saw a lot of growth in 2020. We have a lot of contractors who did supremely well for 2020, 2021, and are still doing very well. And we saw an increase in their social media spend because they were getting an increase of calls and wanted to make sure that they were, ahead of their competitors wherever they could be. And I mean, it was, I think, a rough time for everybody, obviously, but the day that it opened back up, we were back in the office. I am not a work from home person. I could not stand it to save my life. I felt like the walls were closing in and all that. But we worked it out. We just, my dad had a plan in place and it worked out for everybody. I mean, we didn't lose any employee during it. There's one of our employees is still, she comes in a couple days a month, but, she really liked the work from home aspect. And, if she's happier there, then again, my dad's like, hey, I want to keep everybody happy because, that's,
I was amazed.
To create a space for everybody.
And I was amazed at some of the restaurants who didn't do a lot of takeout business all of a sudden realize nobody's coming in, so we better step it up. And there's some wonderful stories in the restaurant business about how they stayed open just by doing that. And now it's a big part of their business.
Oh yeah. Me and my husband were very adamant about, there's our favorite restaurant that's around the corner from us, at least twice a week, even if it was like us just sharing a burger, because of course it gets expensive if you chew too much. But we made a point to go in and, wait outside, but we order something. Like, we made a point to support as much as we could during that shutdown. And, during when restaurants didn't open back up full capacity for quite some time, I think it was until August almost that they didn't open back full capacity. But we made a point, I think it was Cinco de Mayo, we got food to go from La Casina, which is here in Clayton. And we waited an hour and a half for food, but I was a happy camper because I was like, I'm getting tacos from La Casina.
Yep.
Like, I didn't care how long I had to wait.
Tacos work everywhere, don't they? Tacos and bacon, I've found, pretty much work everywhere.
Yes. Yeah.
I think you and I met, we've not known each other long. We've known each other a couple of weeks, but we had a lot of fun at what was the Double Barrel Bar in Smithfield?
Double Barley.
Double Barley Bar, yeah.
Yes.
We met when the Smithfield core group was having a mixer, chance to get to meet some new people. So that's the first time you and I chatted. We had a blast. I think I asked you who spelled your first name, but tell that story again. Why is it spelled that way? Those are the quirky things that intrigue me, Kristen.
Yes. So my mom has, one of her best friends is Kristen, and she wanted to name me Kristen. And my dad said, there's enough Kristens in the world. Let's name her Kirsten. And on top of that, they just decided to spell it in the most bizarre way possible. So that way I would be correcting people the rest of my life. And then on top of that, my maiden name is Mixa. So I was also correcting people on that because they were always trying to French it up.
And of course, your parents' names are Jeff and Susan or something like that. Simple to spell, right? I don't know your mom. What's your mom's name?
Yes, they're very run-of-the-mill names. Yeah.
What is your mom's name?
Lisa.
Yeah, there you go. And they give you.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you got back with them one day as you were growing up. I'm sure that.
Yes.
Yeah. So what is Yancey Nothing Yet?
That is, so that came about, my husband and I started an LLC a couple years ago. And we had always said that we wanted to do something with that verbiage because it being his last name, we were in our apartment together in Austin, and he said something and I just came at him and I was like, Yancey Nothing Yet.
Yeah.
And he dropped John. He goes, what? I go, have you never thought of that before? Like, it's your last name. He goes, never. And I go, oh my God. Like,
but that's what you
dumb.
Yeah. But that's what you do for a living.
Yeah.
Is that.
So I picked up that URL
before
I got into sales because I was like, I'm going to make sure people know that that's ours. It was the hashtags for our wedding. So anybody who, took any photos that day, they're all collected on social media under that. And it's our trademark basically. So anything that we do has Yancey Nothing Yet attached to it.
Is that the barbecue sauce business as well?
Yes. So that's the name of the LLC. The name of the sauce is Yancey's Fancy Pants.
Nice. And now, did you come up with that too?
I did.
Nice. He really owes you, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah.
Was that a dream of yours to have a business and it turned out to be that business, or did you guys just stumble on it?
I just kind of stumbled on it as more of a hobby and decided to bottle it one day, so it was like, okay, we're getting good feedback from it. Let's just go ahead and slap a label on it. And
is that his full-time job?
So no, he actually works at Coca-Cola.
Okay. All right. So this is your weekend hobby?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. With plans for bigger distribution one day?
Just, if it happens that way, then it happens that way. But not putting a whole lot of stock into it.
I get
it's
it. Stock. Nice pun, yeah. I would imagine coming up with new tastes and flavors has to be fun.
Yes, yeah. So my husband wants to do a Chipotle one in the future, and I actually want to. I've been making salsa since I was 12, and I want that to be the next thing.
There you go.
Ahead of the Chipotle. So
that you can put on your tacos when you order them, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
We marketers connect dots, don't we?
Yeah.
Now you can sell both of them. Yeah, just what you want to do is start making tacos, right?
Yeah. I actually had brisket tacos last night for dinner.
Ooh, the brisket
Yes.
is, oh man. Oh yeah, by the way, happy birthday.
Thank you.
So hopefully you got spoiled enough over the whole weekend.
I did. I had a very good couple of days.
Good.
Since Thursday. Yeah.
That may as well start it. You should try next year, take all of August.
I've never been good at doing the whole month thing, but I definitely take, from my birthday through the weekend.
Right.
So.
And when was your birthday?
Thursday.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday.
We did a happy hour. Most of the people from the office were able to make it. Some people from the Cleveland Connection stopped by, and family. And then on Friday, I took the day off, and just had a long weekend. It was really nice.
Right. Yeah. And I'm going to take a selfish moment here. On Saturday morning, our first granddaughter was born.
Oh, yay.
Yep. We've been waiting. She was a week early. Her name is Maggie. She naturally is spectacular.
Yes.
So I got to hold her for a little bit in the hospital till they told me to put her down. And I was talking to her, telling about all the fun things she's going to learn. And, she's young enough to know that I don't sing well at all. So I sang her a couple songs, and she didn't wake up screaming. So I took that as a plus.
That's good. That's good.
I have a good picture of her older brother, Oliver, who the show is familiar with. He went to the hospital for the first time Saturday afternoon, and just have a good picture of him looking at her asleep in her bed. And I was texting with Oliver's mom the other day, and I said, I just want to know the thought bubbles. Yeah. Here's a 4-year-old thinking, because he knew she was coming. He's very excited about helping and having a baby sister, because he's got cousins on his mom's side of the family. There's a brother-sister or sister-brother combo. So he knows that dynamic in the house. Now he has one. But I'm just waiting to when he realizes, hey, I'm not the cute one here anymore.
Yeah.
But we are having a blast. Yep.
Yeah, that'll. I have an older sister, and she actually wanted me to live in the garage when I was in my mother's womb. Yeah. She had a playroom, which was about to be turned into a nursery, and her idea was to move me to the garage. Mm-hmm. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, nobody could. The dynamic definitely does change when you're about to no longer be the only child.
Hey, no older sibling would argue with that, I'm sure. So back to you and your husband, Peyton. Always like to ask people on the show, how did you and Peyton meet, and do you both tell the story the same way?
We do not tell the story the same way.
Good. I like these even better.
Not at all. So we met through a mutual friend. So she was a coworker of mine in Austin when I was bartending and serving, and she was a friend of his. And I was actually dating somebody else at the time, and she went to introduce me to them, and I was very rude because I was dating somebody else, and I was like, do you need something over here? Because I'm crazy busy with all my other tables, and no, you don't need anything. Perfect. Bye. And that left a lasting impression on both of us until he came in on a slow night, and I was no longer dating said person. And I knew that he was a personal trainer, like freelance, and did this, it's called TRX, and I had never tried it before. And so I sat down and I was like, hey, so I really want to try that TRX thing. And then he was my personal trainer for a while, and then we started dating, and then we had moved in with each other within like 6 months, and then the rest is history. But his side of the story is funnier.
and yet he came back to see you, tells you that there was a impression left. Maybe a different one than you thought. Right?
He actually had my phone number prior to me giving it to him. So he stole my phone number from my coworker's phone.
That should tell you something. He gets 2 points for that.
I guess he knew something was going to happen.
And I tell people all the time, for my kind, and thank you to your kind for dating my kind, because we're not easy to live with sometimes. We're fun and we're predictable, and y'all give us way more credit for being smart than we are. But when we see somebody we want to meet, we will chase. Yes. We will chase, and he did, didn't he?
He did, yes.
Well, good for you. The reason you were in Austin was kind of traumatic. You had an injury at work with a glass table that did some damage to your knee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Freak accident. Shaved side of a glass tabletop rolled out onto my knee and cut off a chunk of skin. I actually just celebrated, and I say celebrate because it did happen. It led to a great series of events.
Yeah.
So I celebrated the 12-year anniversary of it on Saturday. And had that not happened, I never would have moved to Austin. I never would have met my husband, and I wouldn't be where I am today. So
the accident happened locally, but you went to Austin to live with your mom and rehab there?
Yes. So it happened when I was working at Logan's Nursery in downtown Raleigh. My mom and dad were living in Austin at the time. And then when I told her what happened, I downplayed it 100%.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I had stitches, blah, blah, blah. I really couldn't walk. And so her friend called her and said, you need to get up here. It's a lot worse than what she's saying. And my mom came up, packed up my apartment in 3 days, and I was living in Austin. And it took about 6+ months to fully recover. And then then I was out looking for jobs, and
naturally you picked something where you were standing all night. Bartending, right? Good decision.
Well, it was, I was laying down most of the day for 6 months after being a very active person my entire life. So I was ready to be on my feet again.
Laying in bed that